Years ago, I met an older gentleman who had been around the personal development world for decades. I'd never heard of him. Seemed like he was more of a local guy, but I think he had somewhat of a following, somewhat of a captive audience for many, many years. Kind of checked out for a while and then reemerged when I had discovered him. But I learned a valuable lesson from him. And he talked about um, the willingness and the importance of celebrating the crap that people have created in their lives, understanding that if you can actually go out and take things that aren't true and make them true, that you're equally as a powerful manifester, regardless of whether or not you desire the outcome or not. And I never forgot that. Can't remember his name. I can't remember the circumstances of how I met him. It's a bunch of people I think I went to school with. And but it always stuck with me. I thought, man, that is just so brilliant. Just the awareness of that, just the willingness to accept that if people are willing to do so. Cut 2 years later, I'm given an opportunity through a company that I work with and work very closely with, that I'm a huge part of for the past 7 years. And they asked me if I would do at a company event. They asked me if I would do an exercise, kind of maybe a walk or something. And I said, all these different thoughts were popping into my head. And I said, you know what? I have an idea. So I went online and I ordered all of these miniature Academy Awards, plastic Academy Awards. They were like, I don't know, 50 cents a piece, $1 a piece, $2. I don't even remember. But I figured, well, let me see if I'm going to do this. Let me see how many people we're ultimately going to get. Ended up having like hundreds of them. And what I did was is I took people ultimately on a walk, quiet walk, meditative walk, in an area I'd never been to before, in a part of the country I had never been to before. Had some people scout a location. No idea what I was walking into, but very, very trusting. But what I did was is I broke everybody up into groups. I don't know if it was 6 or 8. I broke them into groups, and I gave every one of them an Academy Award. And I then instructed them in their respective groups, and there were a lot of groups, that they would go around the circle and they would really connect to something in their life that um, that they're unhappy about, that they've uh, created over time, that they've really just would love to let go of. And the idea was is you can't really let go of what it is that you don't want until you accept it as the gift that it is. Till you have that understanding of the power of the experience of it. But what I wanted everybody to do was to imagine that they were accepting an Academy Award for being the biggest fuck up, or being creating just really crappy results in their lives. And they had to each give an acceptance speech, but they had to give the acceptance speech in a way that was done with joy and enthusiasm and excitement, and not from a place of judgment. That it was so important for them to realize that the exercise was really a statement to themselves, to each other, to the universe, that, wow, I just took all of these series of things that have been going on in my life over the years, skewed them in a negative way, made certain decisions about what those things meant, and then went out and created it. So the goal was is you get up there in front of your group and you give your acceptance speech, just as you would see if you were watching the Academy Awards. You see the excitement and enthusiasm the recipient has, and they get up and they're thanking people. Get up there and thank your parents for fucking things up. Whatever it is that that you're having awareness of that was true. Thank yourself. Thank all the people in your life that had created you to get to this very moment of giving the speech. And be very, very clear what you were grateful for and you were in acceptance of and joy about. Because it's from that place, it's from that moment that one is then able to see, well, gosh, if I could take all of these really non-truths, and decidedly, with sometimes great effort and sometimes no effort at all, just married the thoughts and the emotions together and skewed the experiences in my life and just determined and decided what they all meant and skewed them in a negative way. And I could take all of them together as a whole and actually make it true. Just imagine what I could do then with the truth of who I am, the truth of what I'm capable of. Because if you can skew it in one direction, you can skew it in the other direction. But most people are simply just running from the past, convinced that they are not this, they're not that, they can't do this, they can't do that. They've convinced themselves. They've created a body of evidence. They've built a case against themselves that says, no, it's not possible for me. That unto itself, the fact that you could build that case and then make it a reality in your life and, and believe it to be true is incredibly powerful. That's the opportunity that I want people to take. So they all went around in a circle, and I had them clapping at the end, for each person that went. And people were really like it was cathartic. It was just like letting so much out of their body. It was just like allowing them this space to breathe again. Like, wow, I can do that. I did do that. I'm a really powerful manifester. So it was in the context of all of that. It was in the awareness of all of that that the decision then could be made. Well, what could I now do with the truth? What could I now do with the truth? And so it was a really powerful exercise, and people still to this day, and this was probably 5-6 years ago at this point, neighborhood. People today still will send me a picture. I just wanted to show you a picture of my desk, and there's the Statue of Liberty there. That statue became a reminder to people of what they're capable of and what can happen when they focus the energy in a direction that actually serves where they want to go and not where they came from. That they can actually decide on a deeper, more empowering truth and manifest from that place. And it's from this place when you have that awareness, it's from this place when you have this awareness that you could actually take shit and make it shine, that what could you actually do when you had your heart in your hands and the truth of who you are was able to echo through. I had a friend recently call me up, going through a lot of the same stuff, and I think in a certain level was wanted to talk to me probably, but also didn't want to talk to me just because they were in their mind just judging themselves like, here I am again, creating the same kind of mess that I've always created. I'm so sick and tired of this. I'm like, listen, you are not sick and tired of it until you're done. Not a second before. And it's not a thought that I'm sick and tired of it. It's an experience in the body that I'm done. And it's the willingness to take a different level of action moving forward. The challenge is that what people try and do is when they're not really understanding how the inside game works, they're creating this all or nothing thing. Well, I've got to change everything now. I've got to change it all. It's all a mess. I got to redo everything. I got to start from scratch. I got to start over. No, you have to start from here where you are right now. You have to start from this moment and move forward. You absolutely cannot create a scenario where you're going to move forward from a place of judgment of the past. It just doesn't work. You're just going to create more judgment. You're just going to create more mess. So the opportunity is available to you if you're willing to work with what you have. So I said to her, I said, no, you're missing the point. You don't have to change everything. You just have to be willing to do one thing. Most people don't want to do one thing. Most people Want to do 5 things. Well, if I can do one thing, I can do 5 things. Well, no, you've never done the 5 things before. You've never done it before. So the key element then becomes, are you willing to do just one thing in service to yourself? Not something that you're going to take away. I'm not going to do this anymore. No. What's one thing that you can do that you haven't been doing for yourself? One thing. And just practice that. Just master that. Just work with that. And I made her make a list. I said, listen, let's just do this. Let's do this right now on the phone. Let's do this list together. What are all the inside elements that you've created? What is the portrait that you've painted on the inside about yourself to be able to create this thing from happening? And I should say happening over and over and over again. Let's look at it. We just, I think we rattled off like 15 things in like 30 seconds. It was crazy. It's like 15 things. And all of a sudden we're like, bam, 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 bam. And then I read them back. And then I forwarded them to her to look at. It's like, well, she was like, yep, yep, yep. I said, any one of those things unto itself could be powerful. There's 15. And we didn't even take a lot of time. I'm sure if we actually had to, we could probably, and had the time to, we could sit down and come up with probably 15 things more. And just how powerful it is when all of those things work together, or several of those things work together, how we then create that scenario. How we create that scenario. So we made this list, and I said, okay, great. Now let's, I got to look at this list. Oh my God, I got to change all these things. No, you don't have to change all these things on the list. Just pick one. Just pick one that you're going to rewrite or reframe or reestablish a deeper truth through one of those things. That has to be the starting point. See, the brain is so programmed to simply keep you alive that it really wants you to pick 3 things, 4 things, 5 things, and then fail at 3 or 4 or 5 of them. So that you say, well, I guess I can't do this. Why? So that you just stay the same. Your brain's job is to keep you alive. So now you're just staying the same and you're alive, but you're miserable. So in the past, you would pick X number of things and always fall flat on your face. I want you to pick one thing. I want you to pick one thing, and I want you to be willing to be it and do it a minimum number of times a week. Reframe it, and then take some level of beingness and doingness out into the world and make the shift from there. Yeah, but it's so simple. Like, I could do that one thing. Well, it's not so simple. If it was so simple, you have already done the one thing. Your brain wants you to think it's simple so that you overcommit and underdeliver and disappoint yourself and everybody else. So it holds you back into that place of that original list of 15 things that you're not, because you believe them to be true, and therefore they are. Let's create a new truth. Let's create a new dynamic moving forward that says, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what I am being, and this is what I'm going to do with it. One thing. And I get the temptation. I've been in the temptation. I've given into the temptation. I get it. I understand the design. No, I could do it more than that. And then I said, listen, just pick it a minimum number of times. I said, what's the absolute number of times that you can actually do this without failing? Like it's 1,000% or guarantee that you're going to do it. So I talked about this before on a previous podcast. People don't trust themselves beyond the words that come out of their mouth to actually deliver what it is they say they're going to deliver. We've got to rebuild that trust inside. And the only way we rebuild that trust inside is one thought at a time, one feeling at a time, one experience at a time. And those thoughts and those feelings and those experiences working together in tandem, in co-creation of something bigger and better than what you have right now. And once you're able to do that, all of a sudden everything starts to shift. Well, I could do that. I could probably do that like, I would say a minimum of 3 times a week. I said, really? You haven't done this? I forget what we're talking about. I said, you haven't done this in how many years? Well, about 5 years. So all of a sudden you're going to do it a minimum of 3 times? I said, what if you just, what if you just look at it from a standpoint, right, of the one thing that you're going to do, a minimum number. If you just say I'm going to do it a minimum of once a week, doesn't mean you can't do it 5 times a week, 10 times a week. But man, oh man, what happens when you hit your minimums and you check it off on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet, however you want to do it? You start to rebuild trust inside. You start to reestablish within you a sense of what you're actually capable of. And then after you do that for 3, 4, 5 weeks, yes, just the one thing, 3, 4, 5 weeks, add something to it. Doesn't mean you go, oh, I'm done with that. No, you're going to layer on top of it another thing. And before you know it, you're going to get someplace that you've never been before. And the design in your brain is going to think, oh, it's going to take forever if I do it this way. No, it's taken forever for you to continuously do it the other way, to get no results, to get sporadic results, to get all or nothing results. I always talk about this. We're looking for sustainable lifetime results. That's where we're headed. A minimum number of times a week that you absolutely can't fail. And then take another thing off that list of 15. And let's work with that. Let's reframe the words. Let's use words that empower you versus disempower you. Let's use words that uplift you. Let's develop an action step that you can take a minimum number of times a week that will start to reflect this new truth. And before you know it, as much as it seems like it'll take forever to get there, before you know it, you will start creating and manifesting the truth of who you are, of who you're meant to be, of who you are inside. And now you're about to share it with the world. I'm Mitch Newman. We'll see you again next time.